All right, and happy July 4th to everybody. Our weekly webinar is on track and ready to rock and roll. As for me, I'm actually at a restaurant because for the last 4 or 5 days, I have had no internet service. Some crazy guy ran into a telephone pole close by and took out the internet service, and they're not really jumping over fences to get the thing fixed at a decent rate. And even add insult to injury, as I crank up this afternoon, I've actually been here at the restaurant for over 5 hours, so I'm sure they're going to get tired of me eventually. But to put insult to injury, I hook up my regular serious webcam, and it doesn't even come on. And I think Judith's had that problem before. So here I am on a hazy screen with a beautiful orange background, but I do have some rock there behind me. It's beautiful rock.
Yeah.
So you've got some texture here. So I just want everyone to understand we have a presenter without a face, and you have a host with a fuzzy face. So we're in good shape today, guys. This is a one of a kind situation. So,
rock and roll.
As that all being said, and I have of course music I think coming through in the background a little bit. So I'm going to unmute myself often so that background noise doesn't come through. So all that being said, Bob is going to present us with a very unique technique, although it will be familiar to most all of you. It's a unique technique in his use of it. And it's something that you can do for free. It's something that, as I mentioned on the lead up to this, it's something that you probably wish you'd thought of yourself. And he's had a lot of success with it. So, Bob, why don't you take it and let's rock and roll.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I don't feel so guilty about my podcast now, looking at your screen here.
Thank you so much. Hi.
Yeah, those cameras don't like those laptops, apparently, for some reason. Anyway, thanks, folks. Chris asked me to jump in here and just share something that I've been doing with my local chamber mixers. And it's, as he mentioned, very simple, very straightforward, something you can do very easily. But at the same time, it returns big value, and you can become an unintentional hero by maybe giving this a go. So I'm going to jump in here and share my screen. So you all can see the view out my window right now, right?
Very sweet. Got your parachute on?
Yeah, I never leave the house unless I have to, but no. Obviously just my background screensaver there. So let's go through a quick PowerPoint. I just got a few slides here. We will let's do the reading view. Let's go this way. Okay, so we're just going to go through this real quick, just a few slides, and then we'll actually go through the process interactive. This is audience participation day. So if you don't have your cell phone near you, grab it somewhere in the next 5-10 minutes so you can actually follow through on the process, because like I say, it's very straightforward, but it'll pay some big dividends for you. So we're going to continue the theme of the overall group, and that's, again, working inside out in your local chamber. So one of the things I continue to emphasize, because I think it's absolutely important, is focus on delivering value. So whenever you're participating in your chamber, be it a mixer, ribbon cutting event, whatever the case may be, just focus on delivering value in some way, shape, or form for that particular event, because it should not be about you. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody. I used to, when I first got going in some of these networking events, had a bad habit of going in there and not even really thinking about it, but basically turning it into a pitch, trying to pitch my services or what I do inadvertently in the conversation. And that's just not the way to do it. So it should not be about you. So that's kind of in line with the focus on delivering value. If you want to become an integral part of your chamber and focus again on delivering that value, what I recommend you do is, in advance of starting to really get engaged in some of these events, is do a little research. Do a little research on the chamber that you're trying to engage with and find out some of the weak areas of their particular outreach. Now, I'm kind of have a core group of 5 chambers that I'm currently targeting with a program that we'll touch on briefly. It's not really, we're not going to get into detail on it. Let's leave it at that. But when I go and research what other chambers are doing, and I'm in California, for those of you who don't know, I think everybody does at this point, but we've done this online previously, some of us, where we'll research a chamber, and it amazes me because I live about an hour from Silicon Valley, the technology capital of the world, if you will. I can go into chambers of commerce in Silicon Valley, and I'm amazed at outdated websites, lack of social media, just lack of reviews, just amazing voids in their general outreach and their general appearance to the public. In my mind, if you're a chamber of commerce, you want to be putting on your best duds and you want to be putting your best foot forward in terms of your view to the public and your view to potential new members. But again and again and again, I just, in basic outreach, and you only got to take 5-10 minutes to do this, just look at what they're doing. What does their website look like? What social media platforms are they engaged in? Do they have a YouTube channel? Do they have an Instagram, et cetera, et cetera? And do they have reviews ongoing in various social media platforms or Google Business? And what you're probably going to find, unless yours is markedly different than what I've seen, is you're going to find major areas of weakness. And now you can become, again, that unintentional hero by going and looking for ways to fill those voids or expand that outreach for them. And the way you do that is you apply your expertise or know how to solve a problem. So maybe they don't have an Instagram page. And I'm only learning this myself over the last few months, is the value of Instagram for chambers of commerce. I've seen some chambers that do it pretty well. And I've seen some chambers, including my home one, who is currently not doing it at all. So if you're have a skill set in Instagram, or maybe you're an Instagram influencer, maybe you're even at that level. But if you have a particular skill, be it on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, and they have a void in that area, there's your opportunity. There's your chance to get your foot in the door, if you will. You can approach those people. You can volunteer your time. Don't sell yourself. Again, it's not about you. Go in and volunteer a little bit of your time to fill some of that void and expand their outreach. They're going to be very appreciative of that, and I'm speaking from experience on that. So let's not belabor that one anymore. Social media is the most obvious low-effort opening. So as I just mentioned, if they don't have good outreach in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, you could potentially step into that void, offer to build and or manage those platforms for them, which expands their outreach. And, in almost all cases, they're going to be very appreciative of that because you brought value to the table. Hopefully you didn't go and try and sell them on the service. That's not what it's about. And again, expanding that outreach potentially exposes them to new potential members, in time growing their membership. So they're going to appreciate the value of what you're bringing to the table. So again, look at your skill set, apply that to where you find those weaknesses based on the research from the previous slide, and then see where you can help. And I just threw graphics on the bottom there because as I was throwing this slide thing together this morning, I found some graphics I'd just done recently, and I'm actually doing some graphics for my chamber's next mixer. And that's just, it's something easy to do. I have a graphics program that's, brain dead, so even I can operate it. And I'll just show you a quick example. There's a graphic for a mixer we did in, There's a graphic for a mixer we did in May, and it's a local winery. So I just knocked that out. I used a program called Relay That for this particular graphic. Relay That has got just hundreds of template variations. It took me 5 minutes to knock this out. So for 5 minutes of effort, they get a nice little graphic for their mixer, goes on their social media pages. The host, in this case, Peterson Vineyards, is appreciative that we didn't just throw up a simple text announcement of their mixer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the low effort sort of thing that you can do. You can step into a potential void and offer that sort of a service to your local chamber. Okay, so that's just one example. Perhaps they've got a dated website. I'll go back to the reference to Silicon Valley. I can find you 2 or 3 cities. I'm talking 100,000 people and up, big chambers directly in Silicon Valley that look like that website's out of the 1990s. It's amazing to me, and I only discovered this a couple months back, but there's an opportunity there. Maybe you want to step in if you've got website design skills, WordPress skills, whatever, and offer them a website update. You know, that's going to involve more of your time. You almost surely should be offering that as an exchange for a membership, if not a sponsorship level at the chamber. That's what I've done in my instance. That's how I got into my chamber originally. Now, I approached them with a mobile app. They didn't need a mobile app, but they did need a website help. So one thing led to another, and here we are. So I've updated the website for them. Social media management. Maybe they're weak on the social media side, and you have skills in terms of social media management or content curation or content creation, and you could step forward and potentially offer to manage those for them and add value to their outreach. Mobile app we talked about, or a progressive web app, a PWA, which is kind of mobile light, if you will. The spectrum there, if you will, is mobile app. PWA is kind of in the middle, and then a mobile ready website is sort of to the right of that. That's kind of the spectrum there. Do you have any chatbot skills? Maybe you can build them a chatbot, basic FAQ chatbot. It can be used for announcing their events, push notifications for member outreach, and so on. All of these things kind of, the mobile apps and the chatbots kind of fall into that range of push notifications, which are really the most current methodology for outreach. So bring forward those skills if you think you would be a good fit and if you think they might be interested in that. And the last one, which is probably one of the least known, is mobile wallet or digital business card. And I won't get into that too deep. I'll show you an example just on the fly. And that's something we can maybe talk about some other time. Show up. This is so important. It's about showing up at those events and introducing yourself, not pitching yourself, but introducing yourself. Get to know some folks. Just engage in casual conversation. Don't engage in marry me marketing, which I'm stealing that term from, I think it's Dr. Ben, if I remember right. So you don't show up and within 5 minutes you're pitching this person on your services. That's what I call marry me marketing. They're not there to get pitched on services. They're just there to mingle and kind of talk casually. Eventually it will come up. You'll get the opportunity, but don't force it. Just kind of show up. I mentioned mixers is the most common, but ribbon cutting ceremonies. The reason I put that in here, I've come to learn that chambers are almost screaming for people to show up at ribbon cutting ceremonies. These sort of a lesser known or less common, but equally as important sort of event that the chambers put on. But generally the attendance at ribbon cuttings is much less than the mixer. So if you start showing up at ribbon cutting ceremonies, kind of get your mug out there, they get to know you, they're going to be appreciative of that because they love to see bodies showing up for that. Good turnouts for their membership. That reflects good on them. And that will in turn reflect good on you because you showed up and you participated. So working toward becoming an influencer. So I stole the influencer thing, and you might think first of Instagram, and that's where influencers commonly use, but it can be applied to a number of other things. So again, if you're just getting started, trying on this inside out methodology, just go to the events, introduce yourself, get to know some folks, they'll get to know you. Participate. Kind of goes back to the slide I just had up there. Show up, participate. And then eventually, as you start contributing, maybe filling some of those voids we talked about earlier in the slides, you can kind of become the go-to. And that's sort of the level that I'm at now. And it wasn't by design or necessarily intentional. It's just kind of, that's the way it's worked out. And I'll talk a little bit more about that after we get through these last slides here. So if you practice some of those things, you can become what I'm calling the unintentional hero. And the reason I came up with that term is like, again, I did all of the things that I just suggested to you, and I sort of became an unintentional hero, and now I'm getting unsolicited comments from multiple folks, including especially the leadership within my chamber. They're appreciative of the efforts we put forward because we focused on delivering value without expecting reciprocal. We just focused on that value and things kind of took care of themselves from there. So you too can become an unintentional hero if you just practice some of the things we talked about here. And I will share this slide deck with you later if you want to review it. So in summary, just focus on adding value, volunteer to fill the void, apply those skill sets that you might have in areas where you find that they have a need, and then showcase that expertise. The latter one is sort of a passive. If you're doing the first two things, the third one kind of takes care of itself. That should not be the focus. Number 3 should not be your focus. Just kind of focus on the first two. The third one kind of takes care of itself. So some resources. These don't really, I'm going to put these in. I just put these in a slide deck and they'll make a little more sense when we show a couple of the graphics here, but these are just some resources I use for some of the outreach that I do. I'm going to show you a scan code here in a minute and how to use that, and some of this will make sense. So any quick questions before we jump into the actual show and tell and the audience participation part?
So far, so good.
Yeah, Bob, that Relay That, is that a paid or free app?
That is a paid program. I was lucky enough to get that on an AppSumo deal. I was actually a member. I was using it prior to that. I'm one of the early adopters of Relay That. I think he still pops up on AppSumo periodically. It was $49 one time, worth every dime. I was paying $25 a month, and I was more than happy at that rate because it's the templates. I could pull it up real quick if you want. The templates are just ridiculously good.
Mm-hmm.
You can knock out really nice stuff in very short order.
Similar to Usign, if you've got that with a full-blown library.
It's a level or two above Usign, in my opinion.
Okay.
I put Usign in there because I also have an account there, and I do use it for certain things, particularly transparencies. Okay. But Relay That is a level above. It's relay-that, or is it relaythat.com? Let's just jump in here. What the heck? That's all. Relay That, all one word. There you go.
All right, thank you.
So we'll leave that be for now. Any other questions? We're going to get on the show and tell you. You all got your phones ready, right?
Yes.
Good.
You have a very participative audience right now.
Okay, and as I suspected, having this share feature on is going to screw with my. I might have to stop share and move. I'm going to stop share for just a sec. I'm going to move my phone over. Yeah, I was a little bit afraid of this. This MobiZen does not like sharing a connection with other programs, and not just Zoom, but it has some trouble with some other things as well. Okay. We're going to do the verbal approach, which is how I have to do it when I'm in a mixer anyway. So,
Bob, I
Yes.
have a question. I've got a program that lets me remotely help someone with their phone. So if you want, I could actually end up showing it on my screen,
Um,
or I can do it to my own phone. It's up to you.
yeah. Well, see, I've got my phone emulated on. I have two monitors, so it's on my other monitor. And I'm trying to slide it over.
Ah,
Actually, I might be able to just. How about if I just share my other screen? I
there
might
you go.
get done as well. Let's do that. Going to share. Going to share this one. How's that?
Looks good.
Yeah, I'll see my screen. Okay. So there's my phone screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a Facebook check-in. Now, most of you probably heard this before. This is not an original idea. This is one from the Check-in Soci Masters ladies. This is their idea. Now, they teach you how to sell as a service for businesses and a bunch of other steps and so on and so forth. So I just took that concept and then I started applying it to chamber mixers. At some point soon, I think Rick is going to bring forward a program that he and Scott are working on. I don't want to steal their thunder, but I really just added on this check-in procedure or process, if you will, at the mixers as a value add to this program that you'll be learning more about in the coming weeks. So it's real simple. It's just you become the sort of MC of the proceedings for a moment, and you teach people right there, not because not everybody even understands how to do a check-in on their phone. So you just step them through it. So basically the way it works is my chamber is actually elevated to a little bit. So they do door prize drawings, which a lot of chambers do, right? They always make mine the last one. So they give me a gift basket to give away. I generally add my own. I'll add some type of digital product to that. So I do a 2 for giveaway at the end, which when you're doing a door prize, typically they give you a 60-second or 2-minute elevator pitch opportunity, right? That's the whole point of the door prize. If you donate, they'll let you pitch your business, right? So that's the door prize concept. Well, we expanded on that and we actually changed that. I don't have the need to be pitching at my local chamber. Everybody knows who I am. It's just repetitive. So what we do now is when I get up and I'm the last draw, if you will, of the proceedings, we get everybody to do check-ins if they haven't done them already in the process. So it's real simple. You guys all pull your phones out. And you bring up your Facebook app. Assume you all got Facebook on your page, right? Or on your installed on your app. Facebook being number one installed mobile app, with Messenger being number 2. Everybody kind of gets the drill. And you're going to do a post. And then you're going to come down here and you're going to check in. Okay? So when I'm doing this at the mixers, it's very important to go through the steps and pause in between the steps. So I tell everybody, okay, everybody's got their phone within reach. Please take out your phone. And I'll pause for 10 seconds. And I'll say, please bring up your Facebook app. Another pause. The pauses are important. I was told, I didn't learn this on my own. I was told this after the fact. This step-by-step, getting people to go through this process is what you're going to, that's where you're going to get the maximum benefit. So after you bring up the Facebook app, and let's just go back. Go through it one more time. Oops, I'm going to discard this post. So again, you just have them bring up the Facebook app, click on their, like they're going to do a post, and choose the option for check-in. Okay. Then you want them to search. You want them to search for places. Now, when you're at the mixer, who you want to search for is whoever is hosting the mixer. The whole point of this exercise is we're trying to put a bunch of eyeballs on the host of the mixer, because generally the mixers rotate between different businesses, different hosts. Why do we do that? Because the way we're doing it here and we're making a public post, everybody that's in your friends list, when you share this check-in, is going to see your business XYZ. Okay? So I've got 900 friends or somewhere thereabouts. All my friends, if I share it publicly, are going to see that I did a check-in at business XYZ. If I'm emceeing this process at the mixer and I get, if 30 people show up and I only get 5 or 6 to actually go through this with me, I've still got 5 or 6 times, let's say 1,000 friends. I've just put 6,000 eyeballs potentially on that business. Brand awareness just went through the roof. Do you think they might be a little appreciative of that? So it's just a real simple process. So here's one that we did. I'm not going to go through and do it, but I just checked in at Spa on the Water, who happened to host a mixer last week. So I've already done a check-in there. I don't need to do another one. But I just selected their business. So what that first process is you want to search for the business that you're at, wherever that mixer is at. Okay? And once you do that, you can tag people that are there. You can tag friends specifically, whatever, if you want. That's optional. I just skip it for this case. So you see that I'm checking in at Spa on the Water Cruises. That's who we were at last week. It's important that you make it public. Your permissions, however you set up your Facebook page, are going to default to whatever you have it set up normally. Just make sure you're telling people when you're stepping them through this process, please make sure you make your check-in public for maximum exposure. Okay? You can come down here and type a few words. Put a nice comment in there for I love the mixer. The appetizers were awesome. Blah, 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 whatever, right? 2-3 sentences tops. We're not writing a novel here. But get something in there for them. And then you're just going to hit post. Simple as that. So we created a post. Choose the check-in option. We tag some people if we want to. Generally, I'll tag a couple of people that are attending the event with me. It's just nice. And then you just hit post and boom. It's now on your timeline. They've got to check in. All my friends are going to see it. And all the friends of the folks that I got to follow along will also see it. So again, potentially thousands of eyeballs are now drawn to that business name because you just spent 2 minutes stepping people through this process. You want to know the quickest way to be an unintentional hero? I just showed it to you.
Bob, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So this has to be done from your personal page. It can't be done from your business page. Or your group.
You know what? I have not tried it from a business page, but yeah, it's better to do it from a personal page. You want your friends to see
the way it's going to go.
Yeah, you can check in. Sometimes I check in at the chamber. I just picked this one because that's where we're at last week. You would pick whatever business you're at. And again, this is not an original idea. It's the way we're applying it that's a little different. And the bang for the buck, if you will, which there's no bucks involved. It's 2 minutes of your time to lead the crowd through this process. And believe me, now we've done this 2 months. And last week when we were at the Spa on the Water Cruises mixer, they could not stop raving about the value that they saw in this process. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking to make an impression with your chamber, maybe you're like me. When you get into a situation, you start by sitting in the back of the room and slowly work your way up. This will help work your way up there pretty fast.
So, I bet you they're keeping a chair for you right at the front now, Bob.
Well, my local chamber is a different animal because I'm pretty entrenched there. I do their social media already. I do the website. We're bringing on a whole program that Rick's going to talk about in a couple of weeks. All of this stuff that's going on. I don't need the exposure, but they're still very appreciative of it. There were 3 directors talking about it last week in addition to the hostess. So big bang for the buck. So that's creating a post. Now I take it another level myself, and I'm going to call this one optional, but I'm going to talk about it briefly anyway. And I do something, probably going to have to change my screen again. No, I can drag this one over. Here's something else I do. I temporate, now most of you in here are doing reputation management to one degree or another, or you're considering it, right? So what I do is I set up a temporary account, and I generally, what we've agreed to in our home chamber is I set up a 30-day temporary account for reputation management for the host. So I create a quick account for them. I create this quick card for them with a QR code and a short URL. And what this is, again, optional because it's a little bit more work. I print these out on an Avery cardstock. I generally print out 15, 20 of them. And I take these with me to the mixer. So in addition to the check-in, which we just did, I solicit reviews for the host. Because again, in most cases, they haven't been paying attention to their online reputation. And getting 3, 4, 5, 6 reviews by me suggesting it to folks, they're going to be over the moon for that. So you just boosted your value another level up if you take it to this level. So this is just some QR codes. Don't need to get into the weeds on how to generate those. That's just a short URL, just a different version of short URL. We have a short URL here. This is instructions, you can't really see that very good because it's so small. But this is just 2 sides of a postcard, 4x6 postcard right here. And I just hand these out to people attending the mixers. If I got any leftovers, I just give them to the host. Say, hey, use these in your day-to-day business to get a few more reviews. You're on the platform for a month. You might as well take advantage of it, blah, 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 blah. And then guess what? At the end of 30 days, I'm going to have a conversation with them, try and get them to, upsell them to a continuing service, a recurring service. So there's a couple of purposes there that I do this. So that's just an option. That's an idea. And then there's a couple of flavors. That's one flavor. This is another flavor. This is just for my home chamber. Just a different look, different graphic look, and that's all that is. Does that make sense?
Bob, you've used this with more than one chamber, haven't you?
Yeah, so the only thing that changes is just the QR code. Well, this particular page has got all kinds of different advertising resources, so I only care about the postcards.
But I was speaking more of the check-in process.
Oh, the check-in process, you can use this as any mixer. It's not dependent on the chamber. It's not dependent on the business. In fact, what I'm doing, I don't have a creative to show you right now, but what I am doing is creating sort of a master card that will be valid for every mixer. In other words, I'll just change the destination URL each time, but this way we could print out 1,000 of these pieces of literature. It could be any one of these. It could be just business card size if you want. So I'm going to have a generic one that they can print out thousands of if they want and just use them over and over and over again. It's up to me to go change the destination URL each time, but you can do it that way if you want. And what I did the first month, I didn't do it on this one, but what I did the first month for Peterson, which I showed you that graphic earlier, is I put the check-in instructions right here to the right of this. And that was just too cluttered. And quite frankly, it was pointed out to me after the fact, if you just put the instructions here and say, here's a card, check in later when you get a chance, blah, 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 your success rate drops off a cliff. Because if you're like me, you just get a piece of paper or a card or a flyer at a mixer or any kind of function, you stick in your pocket, but you never take action on it. This is why if you're not hearing anything else I'm saying, listen to this one. You have to step people through the process interactively. Don't just hand them a card and let them go. Step them through the process. Your success rate goes up tremendously. Make sense?
Bob, can I just ask, is this their app, their site? Have you added the business cards, the table tents, counter cards, all that That's what you've added to their site, or?
This is not their site. This is on my reputation platform. This is just
Okay.
marketing materials from that. So you can draw these up. The reason I had the Canva and all the other stuff in there in our it's coming down to our resources here. Reason why we had the resources here, didn't draw the right window open. QR code monkey, Canva, Usign, because you can draw these up in any one of those resources, right? You don't have to, you're not tied to any platform to make these up. Just pull up if you want to do 4x6, if you want to do business cards, you decide on the size that best facilitates the way you want to do it. And then you can knock one of these out in half an hour if you have any graphic skill at all. The only thing you need is the QR code.
Producing them for me wasn't the issue, but how they were nicely organized on the side, I just didn't know where that was coming from.
Oh, yeah, this is just a particular platform that generates this. So, and again, different sizes, blah, blah, blah. Just, I need to make up some of these rack cards. That's probably what we're going to use for the universal one, is the rack cards, because then those can be placed in a bunch of different areas. We're not, we might place some of these, for example, at the UPS store, which I go to. They have a little area for local businesses to place flyers. So I'll put the universal code in there, even though that URL changes all the time. Well, actually, this URL is for review, so this one doesn't really change. But if I'm doing it for the check-ins, that's a different animal. So I confuse that a little bit. This is really meant for the reviews.
I have a question.
Yes.
So it's been a few years since I've looked at these QR codes, probably like 6 or 7. Do people have to download something on their phone to scan the QR codes, or is it completely integrated these days?
On iOS, it is integrated, and I'm talking more towards current phones. Somewhere back, a few generations ago, they did not read them natively, but iOS today reads them natively, and the latest Android phones can read them natively. I think that's the S9 and up, if I recall correctly. I happen to use a QR code reader on mine.
So I guess the question then becomes, is there a simple way to take someone through the process? Because I remember it being so complicated that I literally would spend 10 to 15 minutes with each person as they came in the door.
That's exactly why this short URL that you can type in is critical to this process, because QR codes, funny thing is the rest of the world is really kind of on the ball with QR codes. It's the US, it's lagging, just like we, naggingly would never take up the metric system. Same mentality here, I guess. We got to be different. So that's why I've included both. It's like, if I'm handing somebody a card, one-to-one handing them a card, I say, do you know how to use a QR code? Oh, you don't? No problem. Just type this URL. It's a short URL. They'll take you to the same place. So it's important to have a short URL as part of your creative for that very reason.
Thank
you. Any other questions?
Bobby, you think this, how many times can you use this? I guess you can use it every time it changes a location for a mixer or something.
Yes.
And I assume you can use it throughout the year because they don't normally repeat locations, and even if they do, so what? But
so
a lot of the same people go to these things too. Do you find them getting tired of it, or have you done it enough to?
No, this is, keep in mind that the check-in process itself is different each month because we're at a different location. So I'm putting eyeballs on, generally people who go to mixers, there's a mindset there, and they understand the value of brand awareness, which is what the check-in process is all about. So they're more than happy to participate in the process. And again, I want to emphasize, you be the MC, you be the lead to step them through there. Now, a couple things happen with that. Number one, you've been elevated to prominence by just being the lead. Number two, you become the unintentional hero because you just brought a ton of brand awareness to that host with very little effort on your part. So you can see how bringing the idea forward and then leading people through it, you can see the value all the way around on that. It's a win-win-win. And it's very simple to do. If you're, if you're scared of public speaking, I get it. But when you look up butt ugly in the dictionary, it says see Bob, and I had to get over that. So y'all got to deal with the things that might prevent you from doing that, because there are massive opportunities on the other side of that. Just break through that wall, get in there, lead those little demonstrations, if you will, at the mixer. They're going to raise your awareness within the group, and then bring those skill sets forward to fill in some of those voids, and you just elevate your value to the chamber and to the membership that much more. These are just simple practices, simple processes. Doesn't take a rocket scientist. Thankfully, that's why I can do it.
So Bob, it seems that in this particular situation, this kind of easy to use situation, the only other person at that event is probably that's going to be noticed by everybody and heard from everybody is the person that's hosting it, because they're normally given a chance to welcome everybody and so forth. But with this, you're doing this, you then have all eyeballs on you for at least a few minutes during that entire event. And how else can you get everybody's eyes just on you as a business? I mean, there's just no other way to do it in these situations.
100% agree. And again, you have elevated your knowledge, and you're bringing such a, people are familiar with check-ins. A lot of people are, but you're using it in such a unique way, and it delivers value in such a major way for brand awareness that they're highly appreciative of that. And the gears start going in their head, and it's like, okay, well, that's awesome. So this person obviously knows what they're talking about. What else can they do for me? Because they've probably got some type of marketing problem that you can address for them. And that starts the conversation down that road.
You've actually opened a lot of eyes. This is a simple process that everyone knows about, but nobody has taken it to this particular use or level. And
Yeah.
Bob, I'm impressed. I really am.
Well, not my original idea. I'm just adapting from what the ladies taught me. They're doing it in a little different way, but I've been harping on mixers. You can do this at Ribbon Cut. You can do this anywhere. Check-ins is just an awesome foot in the door strategy for all kinds of stuff. We're applying it here because it delivers massive value for low effort. But it's gonna raise your value as a marketer, and it's going to start conversations that you had no idea that they were going to start. And that's all positive. I mean that in the most positive way.
Give us an example of what, I know that you got several comments the last time you used this. Give me some of the statements that some of those people said to you afterwards.
Well, again, I'm kind of a well-known commodity in my local chamber at this point, but so there was a slide I used here earlier, and this will explain it better. So this is sort of the ladder, right? So you introduce yourself, you participate, you become the go-to. I'm kind of at this, I consider myself kind of at this go-to level. And why do I say that? Because we have in our chamber, we're inactive on it right now, but it's coming back in the fall. But we have a splinter mastermind group in our chamber that meets twice a month. And on more than one occasion, there were instances where the speaker couldn't show up or something came up last minute, so their presentation got short-circuited at the last minute. And in two instances, they just turned to me and go, well, we'll just have Bob talk about something. So I wasn't looking for that, but I inadvertently became the go-to. And because I'm such a motor mouth anyway, when it comes to digital marketing, I just say, okay, well, what would you like to learn about today? And we just picked a topic and off we went. And they, the comments from the mixer last week were like, oh my gosh, he just brings so much value and he's told us about so many things and this, that, and the other. So it tells me that I'm delivering value. And that, again, I'm going to go back to that because that's my focus. If you focus on delivering value to your chamber and all the way down to the individual members in your chamber, the rest of it takes care of itself. It really does. So you can become that go-to by just, again, practicing some of the things we talked about here. Make yourself the unintentional hero by just focusing on 1 and 2. Does that all make sense?
Well, it puts the right meaning to becoming an influencer. That is certainly a prime way to do it right there without, again, no cost, very little effort, and a great deal of value offered to the people that are not only participating, but are benefiting from the process. Bob, I appreciate your taking the time today. Do you have some final words you want to share with us?
Yeah, why didn't you cut me off 23 minutes ago? I thought we were supposed to go 30.
I couldn't do that to you, Bob. I know how much you
Actually, I just looked at the clock and I'm like, oh my God, you're motor-mouthing again.
No, a great deal of benefit. I think I can get hands up from the whole crowd here today. And
Oh, yeah. This is great stuff, Bob. And I think the thing I like the most about it is that it's not salesman pushy. You
completely got it. You ratted me out there, Judith. Again. It's not pushy, and therefore it's going to go further for you in terms of results because you're not pushing yourself. You're just delivering value, and again, the rest of it will take care of itself. So I want to ask one last thing. It will be my last word for Chris's question there. I want you all to take this simple check-in thing, and somewhere in the next month, because we're at the beginning of the month, so I'm assuming there's mixers all in your neighborhood, or you're all going to partake in a mixer or ribbon cutting or something this month. Try what we just talked about here. Just put yourself out there, give it a go, try, and then report back to the group on the feedback you get from it.
I have a question, Bob.
Yes, sir.
The actual impact that the check-in has is more visitors to the actual Facebook site?
It's a brand awareness play in general. So it might be a visitor Facebook site. It might be just somebody searching for them in Google. It might be somebody that is already aware of the business is just a reminder, oh yeah, I've been meaning to go over there and try that or buy that or, eat there or whatever the case may be. Right. So it's really primarily a brand awareness play.
So in other words, this will show up on the feed of everyone that checked in their friends.
And it will also show up on the feed of the business that you checked in at.
Okay. Interesting. Now, I'm sure you guys can just try this outside of an event. If you have a GMB, if you have a business and you want to find it, you can just make a fake event and share that with your family and friends and see what happens.
What do you want to find it? What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Is that right, Bob?
You could test it in that way, but there's no value to be had there.
Oh, I understand that, but
you could just next time you're out eating in one of your favorite restaurants, just do a check-in there.
Yeah.
I mean it's similar to leaving them a review, just less work and
it doesn't go to the GMB, but it certainly leaves impact on your Facebook and all of the followers you have.
Correct. So if you just when you're in doing the Facebook check-in, if you just use the @ symbol when you do your typing, right? Well, if you're checking in this way, you're linking right here. So I'm linked to Spa on the Water Cruises. So if I post here, it's going to show up in their feed. Another way you can do is by tagging them here with just the @ symbol. I could just do Spa on the Water right here, and it would show up on their feed that way as well. So you can do that, again, just your favorite eatery next time you're out for dinner. Just do a little check-in, make it public. The public's right here underneath here. Just make sure it's public, and you can test the process yourself. See how it works, see what kind of response you get. If you've got an active following on your page on your profile, you probably get a bunch of thumbs up, maybe even get a few shares.
Nice. Definitely nice.
And the business will appreciate it. If you know them, maybe it's a favorite spot there where you know the owner, and they're going to see that you did that check-in. And, I encourage my clients to do this. I literally have done table tents to get them. And this, again, comes from the social ladies. Do the table tent thing to get people to check in. And they do it periodically. They'll put them out, or if they remember, they'll ask people to check in, whatever. But it's, it's a great no-cost brand awareness play.
And it never gets old.
Never gets old. Nope.
That's right. All right. Any other questions for Bob? Anybody else? All right. Very good.
I'd just like to thank him again. That Bob is a very, very smart man. So I'm very grateful that Christopher brought me in a group where I was able to get to know some of you folks. And Bob, I deeply appreciate what you just shared and everything else that you've shared with me, because it's really helped me have a better understanding of how to go about doing things. And I'd like to thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, but I want to emphasize, I can give you the information, but if you don't act on it, it's all for naught. So go out there and do some check-ins and, raise some awareness for some people, and it'll come back to you in spades in terms of a payback, positive payback. Just keep practicing it, and it worked for you. I'm speaking from experience on that part.
So, Bob, you're saying you can lead a horse to water.
Yes, sir. I need a good North Carolina quote to close this out, Chris.
Lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
I have a quick comment. Judy, earlier you asked about a posting from a business page versus your personal profile. You can just tag your own business, and that'll usually have the same effect.
Okay, very good. Very good. Happy July 4th, everybody. Bob, I echo what Scott said. You're always a tremendous asset to everything that I do. And I not only appreciate our relationship, but I appreciate your sharing your abilities with others that are around us here. And I know this particular replay, I definitely am going to push this one big time, because everybody in the group can use this idea and not have to even buy a program. My goodness, have to spend a dime on it. So on we go. Happy 4th of July, and thanks to everyone. I will be checking in with you next Wednesday at 3 o'clock, but I'm sure I will talk to many of you in between that time. Goodbye to everybody.
Thank you again, Bob. Great job.
You guys all have a great 4th of July, okay?
You all too.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Bob. Everybody take care. Have a great 4th of July.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Judith.